You think El Dorado is a myth, a legend, something people made up, but it wasn't. In 1530, a Spanish conquistador came back from South America with a story so extraordinary that it started one of the deadliest treasure hunts in human history. A king, a lake, and so much gold that he covered his entire body in gold dust every single morning. El Dorado was real, just not what anyone thought it was. Let's start with where the legend came from. In the early 1500s, Spanish conquistadors were tearing through South America looking for gold. They had already found enormous amounts of it, from the Aztecs in Mexico, from the Incas in Peru. And then they heard a story. A tribe in what is now Colombia had a ritual. When a new chief was crowned, he was covered from head to toe in gold dust. Not jewelry, not a crown. Gold dust, directly on his skin, every single inch of him. He was then taken by raft to the middle of a sacred lake, and he dove in, washing the gold off his body as an offering to the gods. The lake was called Lake Guatavita, and the Spaniards who heard this story didn't think about the ritual. They thought about what was at the bottom of that lake, centuries of gold offerings, thrown in by generations of chiefs, sitting at the bottom, waiting. They called the Golden King El Dorado, the Golden One. And that name, that story, spread across Europe like wildfire. Within decades, hundreds of expeditions were launched into South America, all of them looking for the same thing, a city of gold. Except nobody had ever said anything about a city. That detail, a golden city, was invented, added to the story as it spread from person to person across Europe. By the time explorers set off into the jungle, they were looking for something that had never existed. The expeditions were brutal. Francisco de Orellana set off in 1541 with 200 men. He never found El Dorado, but he did become the first European to navigate the entire length of the Amazon River. 4,000 kilometers through jungle that had never been mapped. Most of his men died along the way. Disease, starvation, attacks from tribes who didn't want them there. He made it out. Most didn't. Then there was Sir Walter Raleigh, one of the most famous men in Elizabethan England, explorer, poet, favorite of Queen Elizabeth I. He was obsessed with El Dorado. In 1595, he sailed to South America and spent months searching the jungle. He found nothing. He came back to England and wrote a book about it anyway, describing El Dorado in extraordinary detail. A city with more gold than all of Europe combined. The book was almost certainly exaggerated, but people believed it. In 1617, now in his 60s, Raleigh went back. This time his son came with him. His son died in a battle with Spanish soldiers in the jungle. Raleigh came home broken. He was executed the following year, partly as a result of the failed expedition. He spent his entire life chasing something that wasn't there, and it killed him. But here's where the story gets interesting, because El Dorado, the real El Dorado, did exist, just not as a city. Lake Guatavita was real. The Muisca people were real. The golden ritual was real. And in 1545, Spanish conquistadors actually tried to drain the lake. They organized thousands of workers to form a human chain and pass buckets of water out of the lake. After 3 months of work, they had lowered the water level by 3 meters and found gold, not enough to satisfy them, but enough to prove the ritual was real. In 1580, a merchant tried again, cutting a notch in the rim of the lake to drain it. He found enough gold to cover the costs of the expedition. Then the lake refilled. In 1898, a company was formed specifically to drain Lake Guatavita. They used industrial pumps. They drained most of the lake and found gold objects scattered across the mud. But before they could search properly, the mud hardened in the sun like concrete. The gold was there, inches below the surface, and they couldn't reach it. The Colombian government declared Lake Guatavita a protected site in 1965. No more excavation, no more draining. Whatever is still at the bottom of that lake stays there. So El Dorado was never a city. It was a man. A king covered in gold dust standing on a raft in the middle of a lake. And the gold that explorers spent 500 years and thousands of lives searching for? It's still there. At the bottom of Lake Guatavita, protected by the Colombian government, untouched, the greatest treasure hunt in human history, and the gold was there the entire time. They just kept looking in the wrong place. If you want more videos like this, subscribe and drop your theory in the comments. Do you think there's more gold at the bottom of that lake? Or did the Muisca take their secrets with them?